Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 21 Hats podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Feldman. This week, we introduce a new member of the 21 Hats podcast team, Shawn Busse, who tells Jay Goltz and Laura Zander about an intriguing challenge he faces. 22 years ago, Shawn co-founded a marketing firm called Kinesis, but now he's trying to convince clients that it takes more than just marketing. Sometimes it's not enough just to drive more leads. Sometimes you have to step back and take a deeper look at your business, which not every client is ready to do. In fact, it took Shawn 10 years and the Great Recession to do it with his own business. Even in good times, owning and running a business can be a lonely pursuit. Our hope is that these weekly conversations will let owners know they are not alone in facing challenges. Same thing with our daily newsletter, the 21 Hats Morning Report, which highlights the most important news of the day for business owners and which you can subscribe to at 21hats.com, where you can also find transcripts of our podcast episodes and lots of other articles and interviews. Joining me this week on the podcast are Shawn Busse, CEO of Kinesis, which works with small businesses on marketing, culture, and strategy, and is based in Portland, Oregon. Jay Goltz, whose companies in Chicago include a picture frame business, artist frame service, and a home furnishing store, Jason Home. And Laura Zander, who is CEO of Jimmy Bean's Wool, a digital yarn store based in Reno, Nevada, and Madelintosh, a yarn supplier based in Fort Worth, Texas. The episode is titled, Maybe It's Not the Marketing.
Welcome, Jay, Laura, and especially our newest 21 Hats podcast regular, Shawn Busse. Great to have you all here. Shawn, let's start with you. Tell us about your business, Kinesis. What do you guys do?
So we specialize in working with small businesses and really helping them realize their untapped potential. Often that's in the areas of brand, marketing, and culture.
And how long have you been doing this?
Let's see. LinkedIn just told me congratulations on 22 years. So,
whoa.
Oh my gosh.
Congratulations.
So you can drink.
Wow. I've been doing a lot of drinking in the last 2 years.
How small are the businesses that you're talking about? Is it like 5 people, 20 people, 50 people?
You know, in terms of head count, I'd say probably about the smallest is maybe in the kind of 10 to 20 range. In terms of revenue, they're usually in that 2 to 3 million is kind of the very small end of the scale. And then, up to, maybe 10 to 30 million is sort of the top end. After you hit that number, things start to get a lot more complex and just not in our sweet spot.
Or someone has the staff internally that's doing some of the stuff that you're doing, I assume.
Yeah, sometimes that I find that a lot of it's just my personal desire to work with owners directly, and kind of have a really strong impact. And once you start to get into the larger size, it becomes more, just a little more bureaucratic, more political. And so I just like having a strong impact, and that usually means working directly with owners.
All right, I totally get all that. Well said. The only thing I'm wondering is, I got the brand thing, I got the marketing thing. How does corporate culture fit into what you do?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we were what I would call a brand and marketing shop for about a decade, our first, decade of existence. And, mostly our client was an in-house marketer, and we would, help them be successful. So, building websites, logos, brand, that sort of stuff. And then in the recession, most of those people lost their jobs. And that's really tough if that's your customer. So we realized that there was probably...
It was really tough for you, you're saying, for your business.
It was tough for me. Yeah. So we started asking the question, well, if it's the job of these people to help the business grow, why are they the first ones who lose their jobs? So we really started examining that, and we kind of flipped the idea of, hey, how do we help a business thrive instead of just doing marketing? And when we started looking at that, we realized that the lowest cost opportunities were often doing things like changing the hiring process, getting smarter about recruiting, looking for really great contributors. And that became the culture play, getting clear on mission, vision, values,
Wait. So you're saying, I think the missing link for me is simply you're talking about hiring people that have something to do with marketing in the company, whether it's being a salesperson or whatever. You got involved with helping them staff their company to help execute some of the marketing stuff that you think they need.
All positions, Jay.
Well, okay, that's where I don't understand. What does that have to do with marketing?
Shawn, can I jump in here for a second?
Yeah, sure.
Before you answer that, it so happens Shawn has written a really terrific book about marketing, taking a holistic approach to it. And in it, he describes anecdotally a dental office that had exactly the experience you're asking about, Jay. This was a dental office that thought its problem was marketing and was trying to figure out how to market better to bring in more leads. But the real problem was?
Right. Yeah. The real problem was the front desk person. So, they kept asking us for more and more leads. And, we looked at the data and it was like, well, you should have enough business. It just didn't make sense. And so we just started asking the question, who's the first person that a lead talks to? And, I can't remember the person's name. It was like Sally. And I'm like, tell me more about Sally. And, Sally was a misanthrope. Basically, every lead that would come in the door would talk to Sally, and Sally wasn't very friendly, wasn't very helpful. And so they were just losing business kind of, out the door as the result of really a bad culture problem. And so that's when we started realizing, gosh, how about if we put our energy into making sure that the entire team is aligned, that everybody in the company is focused on the same thing, that the owner knows what they stand for so they know who to hire and in that organization.
What you're saying is you can't, I'll just speak for myself, like a CFO, you're arguing, I think, that even a CFO has something to do with marketing simply because they're coming up with budgets of what you're going to spend. So you're saying everyone in the organization has something to do with marketing, therefore corporate culture, including the hiring in management of those people, is all going to contribute to the marketing effort because everybody's in the marketing business. Is that what you're saying?
And actually, it's bigger than that, Jay. It's that even the CFO should align with the values of the organization. So if, you say, hey, I want a culture where everybody leans in and helps. If the CFO is the type of person who stands back and, kind of throws bombs at everybody, they're actively harming the culture. So let's just set aside the marketing piece entirely for the time being. What I'm saying is that we need everybody rowing in the same direction, whether that's towards marketing or towards finance or towards operation. And where marketing comes in, Jay, is that you can actually do a lot of work in the recruiting and the hiring and the interview process that it is kind of like marketing, right? It's communication, right? It's talking to candidates about what makes a great player on the team. It's articulating that in the job description. It's having a website that talks about what it's like to work with that culture. It's using social media to talk about why this is a great place to work so that when people apply, you're already getting the kind of the right shape of employee. So it's all of those pieces are shaping the culture of the company, independent of whether that culture is being applied towards marketing.
Okay, I 100% understand what you're saying because that's exactly my company.
Yeah.
My only disconnect is I wonder whether you've outgrown your when you say I'm in the marketing, but I just think that you're in the business development business or something. I think it goes beyond marketing, and that's why I was thrown off. I totally understand what you're saying that one of our core things is our corporate culture. I actually have a definition for it, and one of them is how far will you go for a customer? And how do you treat each other? And what do you expect from your employees? And that defines what my company is. So I can't put that under the banner of marketing, though. I would put it under the banner of healthy business or business development. So, yeah, I think you got to buy another word. You're not just marketing.
You put your finger on probably my biggest challenge right now is that when we're in 22 years of business, 10 of which was marketing and brand, and the last 12 or so, we basically used marketing as a way to get in the door with clients. They would say, hey, help us with whatever, build a new website, create a new brand, new logo, whatever. And we'd come in the door and be like, hey, what's your mission and purpose in life? For your example, Jay, right? Like, it sounds like you care a lot about customers. how do we articulate that through everything we say? And some would be kind of confused by that. And the ones who trusted us would go through our, kind of inside out process. And we'd start to touch lots of areas of the business that weren't in marketing. And we would have a really great impact. And so we would keep clients forever. But the challenge we have today is that we have such a legacy of talking about marketing that people like yourself are confused, right? In the beginning, because I'm talking about culture and business strategy and business development and all these things. So
do you get pushback from potential clients along those lines? Like, hey, I want to talk to you about marketing. I don't need your help with X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, gosh, that's a great question. So today what I found is that when we start talking holistically in the sales conversation, if they start nodding their head, like I think Jay kind of does, right? Like Jay's saying, oh yeah, I get that. The interconnectivity of those things are important. Then they are great clients. On the other hand, if they're like, well, we just want to hire marketing, they're usually not a great client, or they're not going to become a client because there's a whole industry that will do marketing for them, right? Websites and so forth.
If we were whiteboarding this, here's the words I'd stick on the whiteboard. I think you're doing marketing and execution or integration or consistent integration, meaning you can have the greatest marketing in the world, but if you've got miserable salespeople because there's a manager that's disrespectful to them or whatever, what good is all your marketing going to be? So I do think it's marketing plus something, another word, execution. Mission. Yeah. Mission consistency.
Mission execution, mission driven, mission alignment, because it's alignment.
Alignment. There you go. Good word.
With all your customers, with all your stakeholders, customers, employees.
Boy, I got to tell you, if you did nothing more but do marketing, branding, and alignment, what does alignment mean? And then you pay it off. That I'm right there. I get it. What good is putting a big engine in this new car if you find out that the tires are not aligned? You're not going to go anywhere.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's, the real challenge is there's a thing out there, I call it the marketing industrial complex, that essentially is trying to sell you stuff, right? They're trying to sell you websites, they're trying to sell you logos, they're trying to sell you brochures, whatever. And they really actually don't want to look at those deeper issues because that gets messy, right? It gets messy when you start asking.
100%.
But they also don't have the skill set to deal with it.
And they don't. Yeah, you're totally right.
Shawn, I know that you have talked to clients about directing their marketing, not just toward bringing in business, but also toward bringing in employees. Is that something that you've found people asking you about more so during the last year or so of the Great Resignation?
Yeah, gosh, it's such an untapped potential, right? So the clients that we're working with that are really embracing, get clear on your mission, talk about who you are, articulate your vision, really, be a remarkable company. The companies that do that, like they're not having a problem recruiting or retaining employees. They're just not. And I, even us, we really haven't lost anybody over the last couple years. When we go to market for an open position, we'll get hundreds of applications. So really applying the kind of engine of marketing to recruiting is super powerful and I'd say underutilized. And most companies, what they do is they treat it like an afterthought. They'll hire a recruiting agency or they'll place a bunch of ads, but they're actually not telling a very good story about what it's like to work at the company. And they're not really painting a picture of remarkability. And so I think if the business is really remarkable, that's the untapped opportunity.
You just gave the word. So what you do is we do marketing and we help you become remarkable. Boom. That's what you do. That's interesting. I get it.
Can any company be remarkable?
I think it doesn't matter what industry you're in. I mean, we've helped plumbers. We've helped
absolutely
folks who do really, things that you wouldn't think are like, wow, that's so exciting. And sometimes I actually think there's an inverse relationship. I think that businesses that do a quote unquote more mundane thing often can do a better job of focusing on culture and being a great place to work.
And being remarkable, 100%.
Right.
It's interesting. We have very few I mean, Laura, you probably have some insight into this. We have very few clients over the years that have been in the software industry, as an example, right? So cutting edge, high tech, all, kind of advanced. And the whole thing in that space is like, move fast. And I found that often they're not really thinking so much about the people. They're thinking so much about the thing that they're making. And whereas like a plumbing business, like everything is about the people, right? The technology's been around forever. So, it becomes more about the people than less about the technology.
Shawn, you described kind of the transformation of your business as a result of the Great Recession, switching to offering a more holistic approach to what you do. Did that pay off for you for the business?
Yeah, it was, we were kind of muddling along for the first 10 years. And a lot of that, honestly, was just that I think like a lot of entrepreneurs, I never worked for a great employer. I worked for a really bad employer. And so I built the business as a reaction against that. And the problem with that is that you don't know what to build towards in the beginning. And so you're just kind of stumbling around. And our business was, nothing to talk about for, its first 10 years of existence. And that's because I didn't have any formal training. I didn't have good mentorship. I hadn't worked for somebody who was really great. And I think that's the case with a lot of entrepreneurs, right?
I'm with you 2 out of 3. I don't believe there is formal training from it's laughable. People say, oh, I didn't go to business school. Yeah, I did go to business school, and it was pretty worthless other than the accounting one or two classes. I look back on, now it was a long time ago, but I don't think you get this in college. Mentorship, absolutely. Working in a great company, absolutely. But most people, you're right, are not exposed to, here's the way a company is supposed to be run.
Right.
Shawn, where are you based out of?
We're out of Portland, Oregon.
Okay.
Yeah. And for me, like, I'm with you, Jay, even though I'm a recovering academic, I was an art professor for a number of years.
Wow.
For me, that the pivotal moment was I joined an accelerator program through EO, the Entrepreneurs Organization. And it was like a training environment for entrepreneurs. And there was peer mentorship, there was coaching, and that was transformational. It exposed me to things like blue ocean strategy, more kind of business thinking. And I just like ate that up. And from that point forward, we just grew super fast, 30, 40% a year, year over year, fastest growing 100 for 5 years in a row. So really getting the business model right, learning and getting help from others, and figuring out what was important and getting out of that messy marketing space and more into like, hey, we want to help small businesses be awesome. Like that's really what we want to do. And it's freaking great work. It's really fun.
How big is the company now?
So we're at about 14 people. We do a couple million in revenue a year, give or take, and pretty much have grown every year since that transformation. 2020 was a little hard.
Let's focus on marketing for a second. What do you see most often as the problem with most businesses? What's the typical situation you walk into?
I think the number one challenge right now is that it's really easy to commoditize a business model. It's really, really hard to have something that somebody else can't copy. And so as a result, most businesses aren't focused enough, I'd say, on being remarkable in some way. And they often focus what they think is remarkable on the thing that's actually easily copied by others.
Amen. I mean, I was thinking of my answer to that question, and it's so formulaic and soulless.
Mm-hmm.
And people are just so scared for the most part. And again, this is based on kind of the advice that we get, but they're so scared to just be themselves.
Yeah.
I have a different answer, and this goes back a long time. Big companies have professionals, quote unquote, that know about marketing. They go out and they find the best place to advertise and do all that. The small company doesn't do that. They have someone call them. Back in the olden days, the Yellow Page rep would call you, and that's what you were advertising in. or the radio rep, but they don't go out looking for them. It's whoever called on them is getting the business. And as a result, most of the quote unquote marketing the small business does is not really work. And it was driven by a salesperson. They said, oh, I've got this newspaper in the neighborhood. Everyone reads it. You should be in here. Okay. And they don't have the expertise or knowledge or background to go out there and look for the right places to advertise. Am I wrong?
I think that's true. I should add, Jay, one of our focus is almost entirely on the business to business landscape.
Really?
Yeah. So like business to consumer, that's its own monster, right? It's so complex. Are you doing paid advertising? Are you doing social media? What are you doing there? Like I can handle those things, but like as a 14-person company, I would rather be really, really good at business to business marketing and just let go of the business to consumer stuff. But so to your point, I think you're absolutely right that it used to be pre-internet. Actually, buyers had a hard time getting information. And so they relied on salespeople. They relied on advertising to inform them. And what the internet did is it basically made it much easier for buyers to evaluate. It made it easier for them to compare, made it easier for them to shop around. And so now we're inundated with marketing stuff all over the place all the time. It tracks us on the internet, right? Facebook's constantly trying to track us down to feed us an ad. And so if anything, what buyers are doing is they're trying to be defensive. They're trying to not pick up the phone and not get that email. And so that's why the point I maintain is that the most important thing you can do is be remarkable, because being remarkable helps you stand out in a crowded landscape and actually reduces the amount of money you have to spend on advertising or other channels that are commoditized.
In my case, that means getting more referrals, keeping your retention rate of customers very high. That's how my company got big. There's no question about it. When I do speeches, I always say, look, I'm 5% better than everyone else. Do that for 42 years, though, and you end up with a gigantic business. 5% a year. It's the different. That's it. I'm just 5% better. But so let me cut to the chase, though. Let's assume that you got the remarkable stuff done. You got the right people, great product, service, all that good stuff. So my question is, every day I get 20 emails from, hi, my name's Josh. I can help you grow your business with SEO. Can you cut through the clutter a little bit and tell us, what do they know? What don't they know? Can you just give us some buckets? Like, I'll just give you my buckets and help me with this. There's social media, which we do a lot of. I don't know that it's helping any. There's pay-per-click. I don't do it anymore. I think it's gotten too expensive and it's not worth the money. Then there's SEO. We're coming up really well now, at least in framing, we come right up. So that's good. What about, is there such a thing as a list? I did a speech one time with a guy who's an expert in this. He made the comment that when you buy those lists, it doesn't work. It's like, yeah, did that. I did buy the list and it didn't work. What's going on with that whole thing?
In 5 minutes.
No, 3. I have a short attention. 3. Go.
I feel for you, Jay. I mean, I get those same 20 emails, except they're advertising something different, but same idea, right? And I think the real challenge to marketing is it's a moving target. So yeah, 10 years ago, email marketing was an amazing thing. Super cheap. You could totally maximize it, get lots of great business, build relationships. And today it's like everybody's running away because they get so many damn emails every day. So that's the challenge, is like, what's the thing, and I get back to, I think about your business, Jay, and you're not going to win on 10% off, right? You know that, right? No. That's a losing battle. You're probably not going to win on SEO because, maybe locally.
Yeah, locally. No, I'm doing well with, for sure. Locally, my magic thing is, yes, I do the SEO and I have a good presence when it comes up. So I think if you're in retail, that's the first thing. The problem is I don't have the second thing.
Yeah, I think the best thing I can think of is that, Lauren and I had a podcast a while back with a really cool automation engineer, and that's a crowded space. Tons of people do automation engineering, and the kind of stuff he's doing is just totally different. The advice I would give is, what can you do that's not just incrementally different. I think the 5% play is actually really a great strategy for customer service, get 5% better every year. But I mean, from a positioning and marketplace awareness, I think you need to do things that are like totally unseen before. And I don't know what that is for your business. I don't know. I can't, if it were easy, I would just have it. But I think that businesses, they can't afford to think small when it comes to positioning, brand, and messaging. I think they have to think very differently.
I think about it slightly differently in that what is everyone else doing? And so how do I do the opposite? So I'm going to disagree just a little bit with email marketing. That has actually been our best growth channel for the last couple of years. We have really refined it and refined it and refined it, and have really created, and this, Jay, I mean, you probably already do this, but it's creating community because there is so much noise and there are so many options. Narrowing our audience down and whittling our audience down to people who really relate to us, and we're getting more per transaction and, more frequent purchases from those people, and we're speaking more specifically to this audience that we've kind of narrowed down. So we've stopped, 10 years ago, based on where the market was and, e-commerce and all that kind of stuff, we were everything to everybody, and that worked at the time. But now there's so many sites, like you've said, it's so commoditized, the products that we carry, that we have transitioned to really identifying our audience and being a lot more specific.
Okay, I got that part. You're emailing your good customers, but my question is, are you actually buying lists?
Oh, no, because those aren't our customers.
Right.
No, it's all referral now, and it goes back to, and it's long term.
Laura, what are you doing? What are you emailing people? Is it a newsletter?
Yeah, we email newsletters, and then obviously, 2 months or 2 weeks after you receive your product, your order, we ask you if you want to do a review and all that kind of stuff. But primarily the newsletter stuff, and the returns are amazing.
So, Laura, it sounds like you've identified, what we called in the book, your raving fans, right?
Totally.
Which isn't, a new term, but it's something like, hey, let's think about your clients not as customers, but as raving fans, because it's way better to have one raving fan who buys from you over and over and over again, because they are receptive to email marketing.
Yes.
If a random person you bought on a list, you just blast them with stuff about yarn, they're going to be like, what? I don't,
exactly.
So you're actually using it for amplification.
Yes.
and recurring revenue as opposed to customer acquisition. And I think just that idea alone is important for businesses to understand, segmenting their marketing from acquisition to amplification and recurring revenue. That's just one very important concept. I'm guessing Jay probably does a great job with existing customers. They keep coming back. He probably has a way to communicate with them.
You know what? Because I'm in the frame business, I actually have their name and phone number and address because I've got their artwork, right? So this isn't just someone coming in handing us money. I've been tracking this for 20 years.
Yeah.
And my repeat business, no matter what year, it's unbelievable. It's within 1% every single year for the last, as long as I've been tracking it for 20, 30 years. So repeat is no question the most important part of the business. Next is referral, and the rest is everything else. And but I'm still trying to figure, maybe you know the answer to this. Where are they getting my name from? I get these 20 emails a day. Is it LinkedIn? Is that where this is all coming from?
Oh, there's just a ton of service providers now, Jay, data brokers, and they aggregate things. They'll put together like credit scores and your address and there's nothing is secret anymore. There's nothing secret or sacred. So yeah, it's, I hate it. That's the part of marketing I don't really like at all.
Here's the reality in my business, at least. You lose business 4 different ways. Do you know that 1% of the population dies every year? That's just a fact, right? Now, I'm selling to people that are older, meaning they're not 12 years old. So in my case, probably 2% of my customers are dying every year. That's just harsh reality. So that's 2. Then you got how many people end up, they framed as many pictures as they're going to frame. The house is filled with it. They're done. That's probably 5%. There's certainly that. People move every year. What percentage of people move? And then the last one is maybe they went somewhere else. Maybe they, for whatever reason, their friend sent them somewhere else, they didn't like your selection, whatever. You add those 4 things together, you got to replace that somehow. And in my case, I replace it by the referrals and by trying to do some kind of marketing, or if people drive by the store, if you have a store. But you do have to have something coming in, because I don't care what business you're in, you're losing X% of your customers every year through no fault of your own.
Do you track these numbers and report on them, or is this intuition?
Absolutely. No, I get it every month. No. It's very simple. Oh, Mary Smith.
So you know how many people died?
No, I don't know how many died, but I know that well, we eventually might, because they stopped coming in. But we say to them, oh, you're not in our computer. Oh, where did you hear about us? And it's very simple. It's either I was driving by, my friend sent me in, I found you online, maybe we heard you on the radio, though very difficult. I don't get a whole lot of it. It's pretty finite. Like I said, I'm a unique retailer in that I've got everyone's name and number in my computer. So we've been tracking it for years. The problem is, no matter what business you're in, you're clearly losing some business every year. So this is the number one mistake people make that I've seen. They think, oh, their problem is their rent's too high, they think. So what do? They find a cheaper location that's off the beaten path. Yeah, that's called suicide. I mean, that's not, your rent is your cheapest form of advertising. So they think they're helping themselves by getting their rent down by $1,000, but they just shut off X% of new business coming in. You have to be able to find new business every year, one way or the other, or you're going to eventually. Do
you track how much business you lose every year? Do you track that? Or are you intuitively guessing that 10%?
No.
He's got the data. He knows.
I know what percentage is repeat, so I have to assume that next X% is.
Got it.
I mean, Jay is putting his finger on exactly the dynamic I see over and over again. And this applies to B2B or B2C. So issue number one is businesses under optimize the value of their existing customer base. So they don't actually keep going back to them and building a stronger and stronger relationship. They focus so much energy on getting new customers that they take for granted the ones that they have. That's super common. That's problem number one. Problem number two is they don't actually build the model or the tools or the data to actually make that possible. So like Jay's been running some kind of a CRM for years. That's like amazing. Very few retailers do a good job of that. But like actually understanding where that business is coming from and staying in touch with those folks. And then the number two issue is like forest for the trees, right? Oh my God, my rent's so expensive, so we're going to move. In the B2B space, I see this. The owners have this crappy building in some office park somewhere that has, wood paneling from the 1970s. And then they go to market to try to hire talent, and the talent walks in the door for an interview and they're like, no, I'm not working here.
You are absolutely right.
They lose a different type of customer, right? So the B2B people are suffering in a different way by not investing in the thing that matters to the culture, right? So same thing.
And the people that run the company, this is what they say. They'll say, oh, no one cares what the offices look like. That's just not true. And the number one, you might put this in your toolbox, the number one thing that repels new employees is bad picture framing in the offices.
That's funny. Okay, yeah. So you, Shawn, just totally segued into the one thing I was going to ask you guys during this, and that is, right now, when do you decide to spend money or spend time to save money as opposed to spend time to make money? So as an example, we were just given an offer by our bank to change our merchant processing to the bank's merchant processing. And in exchange, they were going to give us 2 months of merchant processing for free. We pay about $1,000 a day in merchant processing. So if Doug can spend a couple of weeks to do the programming, because our computer system is completely custom, so it's not as easy as just switching Shopify. So it'll take Doug a couple of weeks. We'll get 2 months, $1,000 a day, 50, 60 grand, plus better rates for the rest of the year. So right now that's looking at, maybe $60,000, $70,000 for the year. I'm rounding numbers. Or he could spend those 2 or 3 weeks working on something so that we could, to make the site better so that we get more revenue out of our existing customers and or build new customers. How do you decide?
No, there's option 3. You're doing exactly what I'm talking about. They happen to come to you and say, oh, we'll save you money. The fact is, there's 50 other companies out there to do credit card merchant services that they're probably going to be cheaper than your local bank.
No, that's actually, we've done the research. This has been something that's on our radar for years and years and years.
And this is a big bank?
Yes. And we've gotten other bids. And so
you are confident it's cheaper. Okay.
Yes. So this dollar amount, we wouldn't have made the switch just for the better rates. But the fact that they're willing to give us 2 months for free, and that's going to be $40,000, $50,000 just in a chunk of change. Is it worth, $40,000 to $50,000 of savings, just bottom line? Like, how much do you have to do in revenue to make $40,000 or $50,000? And so, like, the thought process was, could Doug spend 2 or 3 weeks of his time and develop a feature on the site that would generate $500,000 in sales, which would then net us $40,000 or $50,000?
Oh boy, yeah.
Wait. Let's be clear. You're mixing up gross profit with net profit. You wouldn't have to do $500,000. If you did another $100,000, you'd probably make the same amount of money with your gross profit. Your gross profit is not 10%.
Yeah. Okay. Good point.
Okay. So I think the answer is simple: to get Doug to work harder.
Yeah.
I know he doesn't listen to this, so it's safe to say that. Yeah, get him to work a little harder and do both.
Hey, sometimes you got to choose between marriage and business.
Oh man, I get what you're saying, Laura. This seems like a slightly more clear-cut thing because, on the one hand, you're talking a known ROI, right? You're like, hey, I know we will get $50,000 out of this if we do this effort, and then it will pay off ongoing, which is great, versus the unknown ROI of doing changes to the website and who knows what'll happen. It could be exponentially better or it could do nothing. That's the challenge. But it seems like such a small investment of time, you say 2 to 3 weeks. Are there other risks that we're not hearing about?
No other risks. Just the time.
Wait, you didn't tell us how much you're going to save on an ongoing basis. It's not just the 2 months free. You just said the rate's lower, you said.
Yeah. Yes, I did. So maybe $1,000 to $2,000 a month.
Yeah, you're not going to do a marketing fee. That's like a revenue stream. To your point, getting $2,000 a month net, that's going to be tough to pull off doing some marketing.
Right, and then forever. For years and years and years, obviously ongoing. But the question, I feel like it's a good question because, it's not just this, it's like cleaning. At what point do you stop cleaning the offices yourself and do you spend the money to have somebody clean? It's these opportunity costs.
But Laura, the thing we haven't talked about and you've raised this in the past, is how do you get Doug out of the cage that you've built him in?
Well, that's a different episode.
The issue is, does it make sense to just keep building the system that he, hand built starting 20 years ago or whatever it was? Or do you bite the bullet at some point and convert to Shopify or something else off the shelf?
No, you don't. No, you have somebody buy it who has
You were considering that at one point. Have you ruled that out now?
Yes. Because I think it comes with its own host of, it's going to be the same number of problems, just different problems.
Just so you know, we did go to Shopify and we're very happy for whatever that's worth.
We have Shopify on our other thing, with the Madeline Tosh stuff, but the volume is a lot different.
Laura, am I correct that search and e-commerce is pretty significant for you all? Or is that not accurate?
Yes, search and e-commerce is about 95% of the business. One of our businesses, now that we have multiple businesses. So now it's more like 60%.
So it sounds like I almost hear two massive risks. So one is Doug being like the key to everything. And then the other massive risk, and I've seen this before where people switch platforms and then all of a sudden there's some huge SEO penalty. There's that risk too. So that's, man.
That's very astute, and you just nailed it. So I think the solution is at some point to partner, be acquired, whatever, and have a team take on this system that's built, because the system is really robust.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an amazing system, and it's something that we can't replace off the shelf. I mean, maybe, well, no, we can't. We can't replace it off the shelf, which is why we built it. But yes, that's a whole other show.
We're just about out of time here. But before I let you guys go, I just want to go around. You know, we got this Omicron thing going, and there's even talk now. I read in the Washington Post this morning that there may be more government stimulus money coming toward businesses, especially restaurants and gyms and retailers. Have you guys been hit yet? Are you having problems with employees? How's this affecting you? Laura, maybe you first?
We haven't been hit in Reno. In Texas, we had 2 unvaccinated employees, and they both got it. So they're out for a little while, but they haven't been really sick. So, you know, I mean, in general, 2021 was a worse year for us than 2020. It was a pretty dramatic drop in sales. But other than that.
Why?
Because 2020 was a bubble for the knitting industry. You know, so many people were at home. But no, it hasn't affected us.
How about you, Jay?
10% of my staff is home, either because they got it or they were exposed. The good news is no one's gotten really sick. And I have a couple of unvaccinated. One of them got it. She's back today. So I don't think getting sick today is, I'm not a doctor, obviously. I don't think it's as bad today as it would have been 2 years ago. So, you know, it is what it is. I mean, they're out and they'll be back. And the mandate they're talking about, OSHA, you're going to have to, you know, still, is that unsettled still? I guess by the February, you have to make sure everyone's...
You're over 100 employees, so it would apply to you.
Right. So we're watching that, but we're being careful. But there's so many people that have been careful that still got it. So we're just doing what we can. But I'm kind of numb to it all, and I have to tell you, I'm just glad 21's over, and I would like to believe, and I do believe, it's going to get better soon. I do believe that. Not just because I'm an optimist, only because pandemics do go away. They don't last forever, or we all be dead. So it's going to go away. That's my plan.
How are you guys doing, Shawn?
You know, we're in a really fortunate position, being able to work remotely, and I'm just super thankful of that. We've also been, you know, taking it very seriously. So, you know, and our clients have been really aligned with that. So they've been willing to meet over video versus in person. And we're starting to see it with the folks who have kids, whether that's the kids are getting sick or more commonly is the teacher gets COVID. And so then the school has to close. Right, so we're starting to see that. And then the wave, you know, and I think this is all because of, you know, New Year's and Christmas and all that stuff.
Actually, I'm glad you brought that up. The real strain is my employees that have little kids at home. It's impossible. I mean, they thought they were going to school in Chicago. Boom, they closed school yesterday. I mean, they just, it's a problem.
My thanks to Shawn Busse, Jay Goltz, and Laura Zander. As always, thanks for sharing. Thanks for listening, everybody. Wait, don't leave yet. If you have a question or a comment that you'd like the 21 Hats owners to address, send it to me by replying to your morning report or by email at lauren@21hats.com. That's LOREN@21hats.com. Do it now before you forget. And don't be afraid to tell Jay what you really think. He can take it. And if you got something out of this conversation, help us reach more business owners. Tell a friend. Subscribe and review us wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on Twitter. Subscribe to the Morning Report at 21hats.com. This episode was produced by Jess Thuberon, founder of Blank Word Productions. Okay, now you can leave. Thanks for listening, everyone.